Hello there guys and welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week I am joined by Alex and Evvi of the band Noir. Now if you haven't already checked them out, Noir is an alternative metal band that incorporates many other genres within, including rap, so I really implore anyone who's got a more of an eclectic music taste such as myself to go and check them out. They are on Spotify and all the usual sort of music places. They've got a video on YouTube as well, and in the description I've included a link to their website, their merch, the Spotify link to their newest single, as well as their social media places. Couple little bullet points for the chat. What we spoke about was trying to avoid getting pigeon-holed into one specific genre as a band, the songwriting process and the upcoming EP and other singles and things that Noir have got releasing. We also speak about Letlive, Fever 333, essentially the frontman Jason Butler of those. We speak about band identity, taking risks as a band, and a few other things like that. So it's quite a music-orientated chat. There'll be no promo today, so make sure you go check out Noir on Spotify, check out Vanity, pretend that's a promo, have a bit of fun there. And yeah, then come back to this chat and listen to the end, and I'll be back right at the end just to give a bit of insight into what's coming in the next few weeks of Genuine Chit Chat. So really appreciate you guys sort of checking out the show. Make sure you look us up on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and if you feel like it deserves it, go on any of the usual podcasting review sites and send us a review. So thanks as always guys, and I'll talk to you at the end. Welcome to Genuine Chit Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people, and I'm your host, Mike Burton. And I'm here today with Alex and Evvi from Noir. Welcome guys, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, what's up? How's it going?
It's going well, obviously as well as it can be in the current lockdown climate, but we're here to talk about music, so let's go on with that. And I've listened to you guys' band quite a lot, and I love it. I think Vanity, your newest single, is my favourite of the 3 singles you've got out, and I love the video as well. It's very well made. So before we sort of get into that, I want to ask you guys, how did you meet? Obviously there's more members of your band too, but what kind of got you guys to meet, and what kind of got you to start Noir?
Do you want to take that, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, we all met really in Bath because we all did the commercial music course at Bath Spa University. So we all kind of met in the first year. It was like a part of the course you had to like form a band performance modules. So we all kind of like gravitated to each other because we were like the few people who kind of like heavy music really. So it was kind of like I remember like we did like the first time I met Jake and Sonny, the other guitarist and the bassist, the twins. We were at we did like a Weatherspoons meetup. Social thing before, and then you just looked over, and this is like before where they like wore patch jackets and stuff, and he just straight away he was like, oh, okay, they listen to heavy music, I'll chat to these guys. So so it was kind of like that really, and yeah, we just kind of like we started playing, jamming together. We kind of just that really, we just like from the get go, I think we kind of knew we had like a bit of a unique sound because there's so many like different. We all came with different influences and stuff, and I think we kind of knew. Throughout the first year of being a band together, we had something different, something kind of, something unique, and just like a sound that just comes from those 5 people in the room. So
we were definitely just like we gravitated together because we're all so weird. I think like we wanted to just like we wanted to keep our own influences as much as we could at all times when we were writing, but we were all open to like everyone else's stuff. And we'd show each other like lots of music and stuff that we were into at the time, and it was just everyone was so different. Like the twins used to like always listen to black metal and wear patch jackets, like and now Jake is like the biggest Bon Iver fan. We've just like he's a changed man. Like it's been a while. Like we've been a band for like coming up to 3 years now, and. We started uni as a band, and we've all just graduated except from Alex. But it's been a good time. Like we're all just kind of like best buds, just doing what we're doing, and trying to make a fun thing out of a dead genre that we enjoy.
That's brilliant, yeah. And it's getting into sort of just genres in itself. Obviously, you touched upon it that you guys are heavy what genre would you describe noir as? And I want to clarify that trying to push a band into a genre is not something I always like to do, because then immediately you get loads of other stuff. But if you could name even many genres, just vaguely, what would you kind of describe it as?
Like it's the worst part of trying to market your band, is trying to push yourself.
100%.
It's trying to pigeonhole your music. It's not fun.
100%.
I think it's like really annoying is like metalheads love boxes in a way. Like, you know, they're like, that's black metal, that's doom, that's, you know, that's like metalcore, that's deathcore, like, and it's like, I think that's like the biggest challenge we've had. But I think like the one we find it easiest to kind of gravitate towards, I guess, is new metal, with that kind of like, obviously with the hip hop, the rap, the kind of the elements of kind of rhythm and groove. So like, that's the one we kind of go to the most. But I guess we almost kind of consider it's like a new take on the genre, in terms of like, we combine, like, so that we all kind of, because like I definitely grew up with that kind of new metal sound, the kind of like, you know, Linkin Park, System, those sort of bands at the start. But I think it's like, for us, it's like, it's combining those sort of heavy elements, but with more modern hip hop bands. Because like Evie was saying now, like, he's a massive on modern hip hop and like knows, you know, you're really stuff, aren't you?
I do like my modern hip hop. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, and I've always found like I just can't. I can't compare when there's just a genre mashup that just works really well and it shouldn't. Like, and we want to make those songs where you can just, it doesn't matter what kind of music you like, you'll find something in the songs. You know, if you like if you like wide areas of metal, there'll be some part of our music you'll enjoy, because we all do like the different parts. I think that's just it.
That's it. That's one of the best things, really, I think, with where there's been so many years now since, obviously, metal, just the standard word metal, I'd say kind of birthed by sort of Black Sabbath, that sort of thing, and then evolved with Metallica and those sort of bands in the 80s. But when that came out, that was more classed as heavy metal. Whereas as metal has got heavier and heavier and heavier, heavy metal is no longer what heavy metal was. And it becomes this, you know, genres now are almost... Exactly, yeah.
Granddad metal
exactly.
now, really. You know, it's like, you know, like thinking about it, it's like, you know, new metal and all those, like the people who grew up listening to that are all like way into their 20s and 30s now. So think about Metallica and Black Sabbath, that's more like granddad metal at this point.
Yeah. 100% agree with you. And the thing is, as well, what's funny is I saw an article a little while ago about Slipknot. It's probably about 5 years ago now. And it said, like, does listening to Slipknot now class as old people music? And like, I'm 26, so that was when I was like, you know, 21, 22. And I was like, no, don't tell me that Slipknot is classed as old people music. Like, they're one of my favourite bands. Like, maybe when I have kids one day, you know, they think that it's old person music. But I was like, it's called nu metal. Surely that helps with something, you know?
Yeah. Like, I think it was the new take on the sound. Like, I don't really know how bands do it nowadays and how they market things that are technically nu metal, but you don't want to put it as nu metal because it sounds old somehow. Nu metal sounds like an old genre.
Exactly.
People just equate it to that kind of 90s, like noughties movements of just like Limp Bizkit and stuff like that.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, is like with the new metal, the first things I think of is kind of maybe Slipknot's first album, but then also, yeah, Papa Roach, Limp Bizkit, and Linkin Park. But they're all quite different. And if you say new metal to one of the metal elitists, they'll immediately zoom to everything they hate about Limp Bizkit. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily accurate. You know, that's why genres, before I asked that question, I did want to preface it, because I was like, trying to identify yourself as a genre isn't always a good thing, but it is kind of fun to ask band members about it sometimes, just to be a bit mean.
I mean, like, I studied new metal for my dissertation, actually.
Oh, nice.
And I did my whole sort of dissertation on like the rise of the genre and how it kind of became successful. And I think new metal is getting to that point where eventually, you know, after like 10 years where the genre is uncool, it's starting to become cool again, in terms of like, it's become like a lot of bands are kind of admitting like, yeah, no, I really like Korn. I really like Deftones and all this. So like Deftones, I think, is now one of the most popular bands among musicians, in terms of like, you know, everyone going back and saying they love Deftones. Because I think what people sort of forget about new metal was that it was like a really interesting time of experimentation in music, in terms of heavy music. Because like, before new metal in the 80s, it was very much, you had the thrash sound. It was, you know, it was just drums, guitar, bass, everything. You know, you played large, you played fast. You had your image. It was incredibly tribal. in terms of like, this is our sound, this is our thing. And then new metal came along and just totally changed that. And then like, you know, you had DJs in the band, you had like so many influences from stuff like reggae and hip hop. And I think that really, it reinvented metal as a whole, and actually it kept it relevant in the mainstream. And like, I think in reality, it's probably the last time metal was extremely popular in the mainstream.
That's true.
So I think like with new metal, it's putting those sort of thing of like, it's kind of cool to take influence from, but not equate yourself with too heavily, because it's a dad genre almost now. Yeah. So there you go.
And with your sound, I'd say, if we take Vanity as an example, like, I wouldn't myself, if you said to me what genre is that, I wouldn't know, because as you say, like,
exactly.
It's almost every 20 seconds of the song is different, because like there's bands that are like Loathe and Lotus Eater and these sorts of low, Knox Loose is another example, where you've got that low guitar and you feel it in your fucking bones, and it's like, that fucking, and you've got that in Vanity, but also you've got the melodic parts as well, which are really, really cool, and a lot of amazing guitar work and things. But then you've also got so you've got, like, if you took out bits of Vanity, you could probably make it sound like, if you played the clips, 4 completely different songs of different genres within the alternative scene in different ways.
Yeah,
which is one of the things I love about it. It's a very interesting thing, and the more I listen to the song, the more things I find to like about it.
Man, we miss playing it live so much. Like, it's just like, that song is just so much fun to play, and like, we wrote it, I think, really, really quick. I think I just asked George to just I just told him, like, fast hip hop beat, go, and he just started playing this like hi-hat rhythm, and I was like, okay, let's go. Like,
I'm pretty sure like I think I remember, because I think when we decided to write the song, I'm pretty sure we just kind of went, right, we want something heavy but different that we can have like, we wanted a track that was quick, aggressive, in your face. Yeah, just like that, really. And I think, we came up with, I think the drum beat, Evie just went. I think Sonny also had this like really spooky guitar line that just became the whole riff of the song. And
just the it's so crazy. I loved it.
Yeah, like, I think we just built everything kind of like we built around this sort of premise of like, we want this to be heavy and in your face, but different, and just kind of like, people can, like, you know, go away thinking, okay, I haven't heard this sound before.
It's a very menacing song, like that, and I think that's where I got the idea for Vanity, like, with the lyrics and all. Like, I just felt like the song was so red. Like, when you hear the song, it just sounds red. You know, it sounds angry. It sounds kind of mysterious. I wanted to just make it very, almost kind of theatrical in a way. I kind of take the listener on a bit of a journey with the flows. You don't know what's coming next, and that's fun with our music.
That's part of the adventure. That's part of the fun. And linking in with that, out of interest, if I'd like to ask, with the lyrics of Vanity, and also, well, we'll start with that. With the lyrics of Vanity, is there some sort of specific meaning to them, or is it fit in with a wider theme of what Noir are trying to say?
It's kind of about people who are, like, obsessed with themselves, and that, like, people who, like, for the sake of their public image, would just, like, change, like, everything about them, and that kind of thing. Like, I'm kind of tired of the kind of culture of people with everyone looks the same, and they're just, like, making the same terrible like Instagram posts and whatnot, and they always look the same. It's terrible. They're just like manufactured people, you know. But it's also kind of the parts of myself that I feel vain about sometimes, you know, like with the band, and like trying to make it with a band is quite, you know, it's quite a mainstream thing to do. People are trying, like, all the time to kind of make it, in inverted commas. And no, it's about slipping into the trap and trying not to get too deep into, like, being on your own, being so vain about yourself. Like, don't OD on your own vanity. Like, it's a slippery slope, and I guess it's about that. It's about self-reflection and what is it? Ingenuity? Does that mean? I think that's the wrong word.
Disingenuous.
That's the one. He's got it. Excellent.
Well, you can say it, and I'll edit it together. Make it sound like you came up with it.
All right, silence. Disingenuous. Right, there you go. Perfect edit. Right. Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, I think, like, just like add to that, just like not letting your ego run to your head, and it's just like, especially like, from our experience, like, being in a band and like trying to make it in the scene and like in the industry, it is like, it's extremely tough. And it's like, that's why like when, people come to you at the shows, it's like, oh my God, it's amazing, that sort of stuff. And it's like, it's just trying to keep yourself grounded. Remember that like, even though like you've got all this like cool stuff is happening and like, stuff's moving and you're getting streams, you're getting views, all that sort of stuff. It's just keeping yourself grounded and remember like, okay, yeah, but we've still got a long way to go and we've still got to work. Still got a lot of hard work to do. Yeah, and just like, remembering that like, again, yeah, just keep yourself grounded and like at that kind of level.
Yeah, and it's one of those things which is, it's very interesting that you say that, because I've thought quite a lot that, especially in the alternative scene, is quite big on image, and it comes part and parcel with being sort of underground and not the mainstream. Obviously, a lot of mainstream things have got image as well, but to kind of make it in the alternative scene, both rap alternative stuff as well as, metal and more heavy alternative things, you really have to push an image with it a lot more so than I would say than pop, only on the basis that I'd say that alternative bands such as yourselves have a much harder job trying to, as in air quotes, make it than a standard pop artist, for example, because you have to try and appeal and find the right people. Because one of the issues, obviously, a lot of people just don't like rap music, and okay, that's fine. But a lot of people really, really hate any music with unclean vocals. And I think that might be probably one of the biggest hurdles. And obviously, you're not trying to target the people who don't like heavy music necessarily, but with your sort of widespread of genres, I can imagine that is potentially a thought in yours. So in that sort of mindset, what do you guys sort of think about, trying to market the band and also the band's general image and things? Like, how have you been finding that?
Do you want to take that, Alex?
I think like, yeah, I think it's kind of more like with the image of the band, we try to kind of like, it's understanding that, at the end of the day, like, we understand that with metal especially, like with like image and metal, I think we found it hard, but also kind of like easy in terms of like, we know there's like a base thing of like, we're five guys playing metal already. We haven't really got any fancy costumes, fancy kind of, that most of it is kind of around the fact that I think we've got this kind of new sound and we're pushing it. We want to bring something new into the scene and new to the genre, really. And but also kind of thinking, okay, with the image as well, I think also we just also like, I know definitely Evie and Jake just naturally dress kind of different and kind of like are constantly looking for like clothes either in charity shops or from bigger brands that just kind of look different. And I think that has kind of just gelled into the band eventually with all five of us, and it's just kind of like, and also like the scene that we're a part of in Bath is very diverse in the fact that there's heavy bands, but there's also indie bands. There's also, there's singer-songwriters and there's DJs. And it's just kind of like this eclectic gathering of just like styles and genres. And again, I think the whole idea of like, you're metal, you have to wear a patch jacket or you have to wear all this stuff. And like, I think that's kind of changing. And I think it's kind of, people are accepting that you can just take influence, like, and I think that both musically and image-wise, that's happening. So it's why you've got a lot of metal bands now who are kind of like screaming, but they're also kind of sort of dressing a bit like indie bands or like they're going to a rave, And it's kind of like that sort of image is slowly changing. And I think we're kind of like, we're always kind of thinking, all right, what's going to make us stand out and what's going to make us different? Because I think that's just who really, in a way, we kind of are as people, because we're kind of just thinking, okay, we kind of want to be a bit different and a bit out there because we're weird, and that's kind of what we go with, I think. So yeah,
I think people know what a new metal band looks like, and we don't want to adhere anywhere near to that, really, like, because we're all very individual people in the way that we dress and how much like we put into like what we wear and like changing styles up and whatnot. I know George doesn't give a rat's ass about clothes. he just chilling, like, and I respect him for that because that's his style and it still works. It's like he if he asks like, oh, should we wear like a certain type of thing for a gig, and we're like, yeah, and we just buy it for him instead because he probably doesn't own it. Like, all good. Like, and I feel like the metal culture and in terms of like clothing and design and all, it's become super mainstream. Like you see it in like H&M in the front window on like a shirt with flowers on it. There's just like black metal logos and whatnot. Like it's terrible, and like it's genre appropriation a bit. Like I don't know how much I think I'm okay with it to an extent, because it's an interesting art style. But when it's like super saturated and you see stuff that doesn't have any business being associated with metal and whatnot, it's weird. That's a bit of a tangent. I mean, I'd rather go out wearing something that people wouldn't even think I do metal, but I kind of look like a metalhead, just the way that I am. Like I just go around with headphones and I have like long ass hair and tattoos, and I could be wearing, like, I'm wearing this like fluffy hoodie at the moment that's just like super cozy, and I just like wear that out the house all the time. It's cool. I don't think metal necessarily needs a super cool image, and as soon as you start to think you're cool, you're super uncool.
I think also like metal is one of the genres where people can see right through you, in terms of like, they can tell when you're being fake. And I think it's like the artist doing well. It's like, the thing like artists that right now who are kind of wearing out their outfits is like, someone like Poppy, I think people can tell with Poppy that like, she just naturally, she kind of like, likes that kind of out there style and all that sort of stuff. It's like Lotus Eater, you could tell, like, I could imagine him, going to the pub with like his friends and like those guys wearing those sort of like kind of outfits. And I think
100%,
like the guys in Loathe, like I'm pretty sure like they all shared recently playlists in lockdown, and there was like most of them all had shoegaze bands on it. So like I think that's why, like with us, I think we want the image to reflect us, and I think part of that is we want to kind of just be different and stand out and just kind of like be us. This is our thing. Come along for the ride if you want, and that's it.
And it's one of those things where obviously, although I'm not a content creator in the same way that you guys are, it's still in that sort of, the ethereal market of, internet now. We're obviously in the internet times and things. Obviously, you guys have got the hardest job, where it's like with bands now trying to sell a CD, or even if you make CDs, is not even really a consideration for a lot of people, because people don't have CD players, because Spotify is such a big thing now. So trying to make music from the music itself is so much harder now. And so I do not envy you guys in that sort of regard. But what I found as well is in the realm of just podcasting and things, it's like, it's such a shame, because I'd say it's only really maybe 60 or 70% maybe of it is actual what your content is. And then I'd say the rest of it is more or less luck, because I've said before, like on the show, like my podcast, it gets a fair amount of listens, and that's nice. It's not enough to make a living on, but like if someone like Joe Rogan or a celebrity of any kind, if they shared one tweet with a link to my podcast, the amount of people who'd listen, if they had like millions and millions of Twitter followers, if 1% of them even listened, it could potentially change my entire life. And it's same with, an example I use is, I think it was Reading or Glastonbury. I think it's Arctic Monkeys. The drummer was wearing a Royal Blood t-shirt. And Royal Blood at the time had like 2 songs out. Now they're a cracking band, they're really, really good. But because of just a member of Arctic Monkeys wearing a t-shirt and the festival, and obviously it got put on TV and that sort of thing, straight afterwards, Royal Blood, all of their stuff shot out. They were doing like sell-out tours when they, of like, reasonable sized venues, just sort of pubs and things. But for a band with 2 songs out, it's just, a lot of it is exposure. And where I kind of describe it as with the internet and things, unfortunately, it's a blessing and a curse, because everyone's got a platform, and that's really cool, because you don't need to spend, you still have to spend a fair amount of money on production and things a lot of the time, but there's a lot more avenues to kind of be able to do things yourself in a lot of ways. But equally with that, there's a lot of ways for a lot of people who are crap to also do it and kind of flood everything with noise, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that. That story of Royal Blood is just mental. It's like I might as well just send some hoodies to like the members of Korn, just hoping just for like, here's a hoodie, check out my band. That's a dream now. You've created a dream, sir. I want that to happen.
I'm pretty sure that like with Royal Blood though, the reason why the drummer of Arctic Monkeys was wearing it was because ultimately the band is good, and I don't think the band. And I think Royal Blood would have had the growth and like longevity and success that they would have had if they weren't good. And I think ultimately, and like say how like people like can bring a lot of crap. I think ultimately though, it comes down to the fact that as a band, like you can have like all other elements of that stuff, but you just have to be good. And I think the bands that do succeed whether at local level or beyond, I think there is a thing of that actually, these guys have something special. So, and again, like you have to have all the elements kind of down. Like you can have an amazing, you record an amazing track and everything, and say like you invest so much time and money and whatever into this track and everything, and you get a really good video and it goes up on Facebook as well. People come to your live shows, but your live show doesn't have it. And I think then that will switch. Like you might have a few like 5 minutes of fame, but then, I don't think people will latch on as much. So I think like really with Royal Blood probably just had it. They just had that factor, good songs, unique sound, and they probably had a bit of a cult following, I reckon, at that time. That's why the drummer of Arts and Monkeys was probably wearing the shirt. He was probably just genuinely a fan of the music, and then boom.
Yeah, I think in our genre, it's kind of, we need to really bring in the new people at shows rather than over the internet, because people won't remember you from a Discover Weekly, like a single stream on your Discover Weekly, really. But if you meet a band at a show and you get a piece of merch, you get whatever, like you see how good they are live, and you could be a fan for life. Like you'll listen to all the tracks more than once. I think we're more reliant on how the live shows go rather than pumping out single after single. And if any of them are super crap, then nobody will listen to them. We don't want that on our record, Like,
yeah,
we put out as much as we feel we need to. Like we're playing it safe and not taking a lot of risks with this band because we want to get it right. We're growing like all the time, and we've got so much like interesting stuff in the works. And at the moment, we can only really have positive thoughts about the future of the band. And like we just wish lockdown didn't happen, man. Like it's sorry to bring in that awful word, but like it hit us like a really slow train, like because you don't really feel the effects until you've been pushed quite far down it,
That's a very good way of putting it, actually.
It's like you're strapped to the front of a train. It's going really slowly. It's going towards another train, and there's a kid on the tracks. It's terrible. But yeah, just in not being able to do the things that's like it's a way for you to vent. It's a way to get out your aggression. It's a way to it's therapeutic to be in a band like with people you like. And like doesn't matter how you're doing that day, like just practicing gets everything out, and actually like working on the new material we've all been super excited to do, and we haven't been able to do it for months, and it's just long. we wish we didn't have this terrible government.
Yeah, totally feel you there.
Terrible scenario. It's just, again, it sucks. We've been working as hard as we can for your lockdown, just like trying to we've done working as much as we can, and eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to get back together in a practice room and just finish the new material off, and that's what we can't wait to do, really.
Yeah.
Well, Vanity's still being pushed by Spotify, so we're chilling with that at the moment. Like we know the song's been out for over a month now, so we've calmed a bit down on the promotion of it, but Spotify's still sending it out to people, so that's always nice to wake up to,
That's amazing. And one of the things that I'd say about your band is that I feel like you've got when Alex, I think you said about Royal Blood having it, and I genuinely believe that you guys, I think Hive is a great song, and I think Erase Me is a good song as well, but the thing is I think that Vanity is like a step up. I think it's showing a good evolution and strength of the band, and I think on Vanity alone, you've got it, in all honesty. And from me itself, I will be following your band very closely. And further down the line, when you release more stuff, you can come on the show again and promote it. Probably too big to do it, but we'll see. But I want to say with it, and what you say about the live shows is very interesting. And obviously you guys are very thoughtful as a band, as you're thinking of many aspects and things. And it's a very good way of doing it and to get yourself out there in the right way. But with the live shows, it's like a lot of people don't value live shows as much as they should. And the problem is especially in the alternative scene, when it comes to rap as well as heavy music with unclean vocals, unclean vocals live, if you can't do them and they can't pack the punch you want them to, you will immediately lose almost half the listener base within seconds.
Yeah.
And within rap, you've got the same, but with the flow.
Yeah.
So if you can't, like, you know, Eminem, for example, he's one of the best rappers ever, technically speaking, and you see him live, he can do basically everything he can do in the studio because he's got that skill. But when you have other people, it kind of works with singing as well to a degree, but you can kind of get away with it a bit more. But when someone, you know, you hear them in the studio, go, God, they're an amazing singer. Then you hear them live and they're crap. You're like, I don't really want to listen to them anymore. It kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. So the fact that you're thinking about the live stuff is really important too, because I think in the alternative scene as well, live performance, I'd say, is actually more important, because I'd say if you're big enough in pop, someone like Billie Eilish, who I do personally quite like, her music, she could probably survive just on merch and Spotify music. Obviously, she does big sellout Wembley tours and things, which does help, but with the alternative scene, you need that live stuff. You need the community that fits around the alternative scene. And with bands like Dillinger Escape Plan, Letlive, Chariot, things like that, who are really wacky, crazy and different, they have such fearsome energy live that anytime you see them, even if the music maybe at that point it isn't fully what you want, you feel the energy and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, that energy alone is enough to want people to go, you remember that band? Like, yeah, we saw like 4 bands play. There was the main band we went to see, and there were 3 support acts. I don't remember those other 2, but that one band that went fucking mental, that one band that sounded absolutely amazing, even if I didn't like the songs that much, you recognise that they're all proper into it and playing at the top of the tier. They're the ones that stay with you. And in the alternative scene, there's countless bands that I've got into that were support acts that I'd never listened to before, or maybe I just checked out one single of theirs on Spotify or whatever, iTunes at the time probably, and it was like, yeah, they were quite good, they sound cool, and then you see them live, you're like, fuck me, this is really what I want. So the fact that you guys have said that is really cool. And is live performance your favourite part about sort of being in the band?
Yeah, I'd probably say, like, I mean, I love the studio, I love the whole idea of like being creative, but I think also, like, this is probably like when I'm writing as well, when I bring stuff to the band, I'm always thinking, right, how will this hit live? How can we make a, like, it's always kind of almost like we have this thing called oof moments in the band with the writing. And the rule is, if we're writing a song, it's got to have these, like, at least 3 oof moments in, because we've got to think, like, okay, if we were in the crowd, we were watching a show,
what would make us switch our lights
what
off?
would make us, like, straight away, like, you know, what would make us go, oh, okay, this is legit?
What would make us take our phones out of our pockets?
Yeah, like, you know, I'd like to film it, whatever. And I think, yeah, that's the way we approach. Like, it's always like thinking, like, okay, I'm writing up, like, okay, when this all hits, will this make the room go crazy? Will this get mosh pit going? Will this get the bounce pit going? And I think if you're a high energy band, you've got to have a high energy live show. And that's not saying, like, you know, all great, you know, obviously live shows have to be like high energy. I'm sure, like, you know, shoegaze and stoner music does really well by them playing, you know, one riff for 30 minutes. But like with us, definitely, it's kind of a thing of like, because we started, like, especially with Vanity Raise Me, it's kind of thinking, okay, as a small band, that's where we are now, we're still kind of hindered a bit by logistics in terms of, like, you know, when we're traveling to gigs, it's usually in a hatchback, it's usually with guitars in our laps, and we're usually crammed into it.
We're making enough to pay for the fuel for the day.
Yeah,
it's good.
But I think, like, as the band's grown, and, you know, we've gotten to the point now where I think we're going to start, because, like, as currently at the moment, we're working on an EP, and I think the attitude of this EP is going to be, okay, like, the live show for now, like, there's still the mentality of movements, everything still counts, but we're going to, like, be as creative as we can in the studio and all that sort of, like, add additional layers, make the tracks sound amazing, and then we're going to think, right, then it's going to be, we'll bring it to the live show and we're going to make the live show even better. And I think that's the mentality we're going with.
People are not ready for this EP when we get it done. Like, if you think Vanity is the next level, like, we're going a few more levels for you. Like, it's going to be madness.
Yeah.
Just even thinking about it and knowing how people can react to, like, the stuff the way we do, and, like, we should be the ones who are super critical of it, but I go crazy when I'm listening to it in my headphones. Like, it's some good stuff, and people should be very excited for that stuff to come out. It's gonna be mad.
Well said.
I was going to say, with your own, you spoke about it briefly sort of earlier, keeping yourself grounded and things, but I think what you said there is very important, which is, artists have to have faith in their own music while also, as you said earlier, keeping grounded. You have to balance ego and confidence. And by the sounds of things, you guys have done that very, very well. And with the writing process of the EP and things, I'm always intrigued to hear different bands have different methods of how they put music together. So how do you guys do it? Is there one member who does this thing more? Do you write the whole song first? What's your sort of general method for this EP?
A lot of the writing, it's kind of like, a lot of the writing we've done is mainly us kind of like, it's very much a practice room based to start off. And
jamming and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, most times it's kind of like one of us comes in, is like, hey, I had an idea, or like, you know, someone's going, hey, we haven't started a song like this before, so let's try something like this. And it's
usually like the little seedling of an idea someone comes with into the practice room, and we just kind of expand upon that. And if we know the song's going to work, if we can all kind of lose ourselves in it and have like just the creative energy when we're playing through stuff.
When you're excited by it while you're playing.
Oh yeah, there's nothing compares to being excited while writing a song. Yeah. Like it's good.
I think, you know, it's like, and definitely I say like we're very like, once, even when we have the song done, it's a thing of like, right, let's go back through this and we'll go away for a practice, then we'll come back, and then we'll always do like a recording on like our phones or whatever. Then we'll go back and we'll think, okay, and we'll go away, listen to it, and we'll come back and we go, okay, right, how can we change this? How can we make this better? And I don't think we've actually come to we haven't written a song yet where we've gone, no, we don't need to change everything. That's fine. Like, we don't need to change anything. That's fine. Like, I think we're very much about, like, we're very openly critical, I'd say, of our music. In a good way, in terms of like, we'll go away, we'll listen to it, we'll come back and we'll go, hey, look, I listened to this, I don't think this works. I think this works, we can use this more. And I brought full songs to the band before where I've just written something at home, and then the rule is, if you bring a song to the band, you have to accept it will sound completely different by the time it finishes. It will be a completely different song. And I think that is the very exciting thing, though, of like the band, like thinking like, okay, I'm gonna bring this in and we'll tear it apart, put it back together again about 3-4 times, and eventually we'll have this song that we're all happy with, and
you can still claim it's your idea.
Exactly.
I was going to say, it's one of those interesting things, from where I've had friends and things who are into music and stuff, everyone kind of writes songs in a different way. But one thing I found quite a lot is with solo artists, I don't know if it's just some of the solo artists that I listen to, but I find that solo artists generally, excluding probably rap, I'd say, because that's more of a solo artist sort of genre. But apart from that, primarily I'd say solo artists, when they write their own stuff, normally with an album, you've got more proportional of higher amount of filler tracks, I'd say, in my opinion, just because when you've got a band that talk to each other, communicate as you guys do, and you all put things into the songs, you don't write yourself into the corner in the same way. Because the amount of times I've had like Callum, who introduced us, with his previous bands and stuff, I used to live with him and one of his bandmates, so I'd listen to a lot of their practices and things like that, and occasionally there'd be like one song and one of them would be like, yes, this song is amazing, and and you think, okay, if they were a solo artist, they'd release it like that. And then they do exactly what you guys have said, where they tweak the song, they change this bit. Oh, this riff is good, but it doesn't work in this song. Let's pop that in the other song that was missing something and bring it back. And you kind of put these pieces together of reconstructing and deconstructing and stuff. Yeah. And all of you guys having different musical interests while still being aligned in a lot of ways. It must mix together that culture really, really well.
Like, metal can be like Lego, can't it? Like, you can literally just build, you write parts, you write blocks of metal, and you can put it together however you like. And like, we think about the vibe a lot, and how songs start and how they grip you. And it's like the 30-second listening rule on Spotify. Like, you've got to try and keep people interested to not skip your song within 30 seconds. So we always want to make the intros to songs quite interesting. Don't listen to Erase Me after I say that comment, because the intro is long as fuck. And I wrote it. I take full on blame for that.
I think again though, like we definitely want to we want like the first few bits of a song to people go, okay, this is new, this is different, this is kind of cool. But then we also in our head, I think we also have like a scenario where it's like, say like you're being shown a song by a friend, and like they show you the start of the song, like, oh, this is cool. Like, yeah, you think that's cool. Wait till you hit 2 minutes 30, or like wait till you hit halfway through. Because we approach each sort of section as like, okay, each section will do its job. We also like want to make sure that as you're listening through the songs, that you get like you're constantly being hit with, oh, I didn't expect that, or like, oh, okay, this is really cool. Oh God, this is amazing. You know, like we want that. We want, again, we just want to have those oof people to go, you know, the oof. Like, I think the best way to describe it is like, you know, you're doing well as a musician when people in the crowd are making the stink face in terms of just like going, I'm making the face. I mean, you can't see it obviously, but you know,
the kind of yeah face, that kind of frowning but happy frown, scowling face, and your head banging sort of that sort of face. We call that our Knocked Loose face, because Knocked Loose are probably the top band that we listen to that is just that dirtiness, but good dirty, that sort of thing.
Like we're all like quite specific on like music that we like and like what we don't like, and we're very we feed that into our writing, and like I don't want us to put out a song that we wouldn't listen to, you know. For me personally, I think what noir is to me is the hole in my music taste that I always wanted to be there but isn't, you know. Like I've always wanted to be in a band like noir and like make this kind of music, and I haven't found many bands that do exactly what we do. There's bands who are relatively similar, like as you mentioned Letlive earlier. When I saw them live once, it was just the craziest show I've ever been to in my life.
Love Letlive
like,
live.
Jason Butler is like one of the coolest dudes on the planet. Like
100%. I
have like my little emo phase picture where I met him, and it was like it's such a treasured moment to me. And like that is that kind of thing. Like Letlive were really different on their albums. Like you could picture them being an upbeat band live and whatnot, but you just don't know the extent. Like
Jason Butler's a madman.
he's a robot of some kind. Like he's an icon in this scene, and people don't recognize that enough. Like I don't know, he's
one of my favorite frontmen, I'd say. Like he's not only mental. You see some of the, like, if anyone's listening to this and doesn't know who we're talking about, literally just Google Letlive crazy live performance. I think there's a video compilation where he dives into a bin and crowd surfs in the bin. He picks up flags and throws them around, and he does it with Fever 333 as well, and Pressure Cracks. And I'd say he's one of the most undervalued frontmen of the whole alternative scene.
And another little fact about Jason Butler, right? Like you just find him popping up as a feature in songs, like, and you don't even know it's him.
Well, like Poppy, you mentioned earlier, Fever 333 and one of the Poppy songs.
Oh, it's like the Wonder Years, one of my favorite pop punk bands. Like he did a feature on I think
Stained Glass.
There's a long title or something. Like and even just like the little features he does with bands that aren't similar to the bands he's in at all, just it works so perfectly. Right, back in the days when I was into Pierce the Veil and stuff, like
I still love Pierce the Veil, to be fair.
I don't skip it. It's I keep it quiet. But like I mainly listened to Pierce the Veil when I wanted to practice vocals back in the day, because like I used to take a lot of pride in being able to like sing the high notes without much pressure on my voice. But I said goodbye to that when I turned like 20. So I try it. I can't, like hive's like too high for me now. Like it's a sad time. We're going to lower it down to play it live, I think, just to make it more comfortable. But yeah, the Jason Butler feature on that Pierce the Veil song, Tangled in the Great Escape, is just incredible.
100%.
And just Letlive's albums, they're all just crazy, and the Fever 333 stuff is crazy but more electronica. Like it's cool. It's cool. That dude's got a lot of talent. Like,
and he's a genius. If you see any interviews with him, he's one of the most well-spoken and articulate people that I've ever heard.
Absolutely,
it's insane.
I mean, like I saw Fever 333 recently where they did a solo tour, but I say it was just them, and they managed like this.
Oh, so did I. Was that in Bristol? Yes. I was at that gig because they had no support, did they?
Yeah.
It was just and there's the disco ball from the light and from the whatever venue it was. There's a disco ball in there and things.
I
was in that gig actually.
SWX in Bristol, and just like how intense, like just those three people, like the intensity of that live show, and just the fact that he had the whole room, and as you know, like he had the whole room in his hand. Like he did like one song, I can't remember which one, but he did that in he took a keyboard into the crowd, and and he was just able to like just have that control over a crowd, and then also to speak to them in like such, again, like you said, like such an articulate way. He's just an incredible, I guess, not only frontman, but like human being. Like he's just someone you want to like, you just want to hear speak. Like if he did a podcast, I'm pretty sure like most people would just listen to it just to hear his opinion of things.
Oh yeah, the dream would be to get him on here. It's probably never gonna happen, but listen to him. I could probably listen to him talk for like 5 hours on like anything.
Yeah, and like his record labels like starting up and all that, and that's now like one of the band's like secret little goals in life is to find a way onto his radar, because he's got like basically a new metal kind of alternative metal and rock label now, and they've signed like Nova Twins, and they've Fever 333 kind of run the label, and it's dope. Like they keep signing like new metal bands and rapcore bands, so it's the thing.
He's definitely, he's incredible. And also I saw Letlive at Slam Dunk, I think it was a couple years back, and when I met
you might have been at the same gig as me.
Was that where you met him? Because that's where I got
I
got my poster signed from him and the Black is Beautiful CD signed from him, and I've got it framed.
Did he have the big beard and like a shaved head?
I think so. I recall maybe sunglasses, but yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I probably was. I mean, I went to Slam Dunk like 3-4 years in a row. It was only the last one I think I didn't go to. But it's people like that when the front men are not only great performances live, but they're everywhere, as you say. You kind of need to. It's one of those things where he's so open to doing anything that everyone probably kind of knows his name without really knowing it. And that's almost the goal, isn't it? It's just like to have your finger in so many different genres and being able to do all these crazy things. Because he's also one of the most diverse vocalists I've ever heard. So it's. I mean, this isn't the Jason Butler variety album. It certainly sounds like it. But if we loop back round to the EP, obviously you spoke about the writing process and things like that. But regarding the EP itself, have you got an idea of how many tracks it will be, and also is there a theme for the EP itself, or are the songs more individual? What's the sort of general feel of it, I'd say?
I mean, I feel like definitely at the moment, I think we've got an idea. We've got a few songs written, but I think we're going to go back and kind of change a couple. So I think we're looking at around 5, possibly around 5, maybe a couple of
maybe a sixth one, maybe a hidden little sixth one, maybe.
We'll see. It's all the stuff we're kind of working out now, as we're kind of like we're entering a bit of the we've been going through the pre-production stage, and just kind of like we're going back over it. We're going, we're thinking, what can we add in? What could we do? And we're just trying to make it become something that, again, just something that just stands on its own and is different. And I think, I don't know, regarding themes at the moment, that's again another thing we're debating, and it's kind of just like right, because like the important thing is with us, like we want to make sure like if we release some music, we've got something to say, like we've got something that we want to say to the world. This is our take on it, and I think that's kind of what we're going to go back over and just think, okay, right, what do we actually want? What do we want the message to be? What do we want? Someone is listening to it. What do we want them to kind of like take away from it? So I think that's kind of the thing we're going to be going back over. And because like, again, when we started writing this EP, COVID wasn't really a thing. Now COVID's a thing. And I think, so what probably from that, we're all completely different people, and we're all, I'll say like completely different, but like, we've changed, we've changed in many ways, and we're different. And I think eventually like, it'll just be kind of going back over. It's like, okay, now what do we want to say? What do we want to do? And again, with COVID, what we've definitely got now is time to do that. So,
if nothing else,
yeah. So I think that's definitely what we'll be doing, and it's quite exciting that we'll get to do that.
Yeah, I think we're thinking a lot about kind of replayability as well, because that's one thing that's tricky with up and coming bands. Like the amount of bands that I've even liked, but I just listened to their song once and I didn't even save it just because I just forgot or something. It's like it's just gone, and you really want a song to stick with you enough that you have to save it, or you'll be afraid of never hearing it again. Like it's knowing what's trendy and like what people are appreciating in new music, like even outside of metal, just like in mainstream music, even like what do people like right now, and how do we make it sound like noir without us like feeling like we're selling out about it. Like it's still we want to make everything super genuine, but we want to have that replayability, and that people will want to be lifelong fans, people who know what we are from one listen, and they could just take one look at our like social media and whatnot and just quite understand what we're about, and then make quite an easy decision whether like yeah or no. But there shouldn't be much debate on whether you like noir or not. If you don't, and that's cool, but if you do, then they'll stick around.
Yeah, I agree, and it's funny that you say that, actually, because there's been bands that I love. I'd say Stone Sour's probably a good example, where the first 3 Stone Sour albums, I absolutely loved them and adored them, and then they released a double album, which I'm always dubious of double albums, because I think apart from System of a Down, I can't really think of one where both of them are equally good. It's normally one part's weaker than the other. But they released this double album, House of Golden Bones, and I remember listening to the first part and I was like, oh yeah, this is really cool, I really like it and things. And then the second part came out and I listened to it like once or twice through, and there was like 2 songs that were really cool. And the rest of it just kind of faded into the abyss. And I think after about a week, I was just kind of done. And it was like, they were one of my favourite bands. And then they released their newest album. I listened to it once and I'm like, it just sounds like every Stone Sour filler track. So it's also... obviously you guys, it's very different to Stone Sour, because obviously Stone Sour are a very established band. You've got, as I said, 5 albums out, and having Corey Taylor in it obviously helps a lot. But it must be one of those things where trying to figure out, to find your footing, it's one of those things I think is one of the hardest things for bands starting out, or almost any content creator in a lot of ways, is just kind of figuring out what you want to do. And I think a lot of people kind of rush into things too quickly, where they kind of almost as you guys, you meet in a practice room, you jam. But what a lot of bands do, they go, okay, cool, we've jammed, we've got 3 songs that sound pretty good, let's just go with them and see where it takes us. And it's like
a few £100 to go studio and just record those tracks. Let's do it.
I mean,
exactly.
Turn up with like a broken guitar and like don't know all your parts, and just giving the producer, like it's one of those, like, if the producer knows he's paid by the hour, he's like, well, I'm getting paid well tonight.
The bass player didn't come to practice, but you're still gonna go.
I think, like, again, but the thing is, another thing, definitely I think bands need to, like, especially when you're starting out and it's like, all that sort of stuff, like, it's okay to suck at the beginning, it's okay to like write the song that it's great, play the crappy gig, and but like it's okay to like, because like like if we released the first like 3 songs we wrote, we definitely, they were terrible. We wouldn't have had any chance now. If we would have released the first 3 songs we wrote. Like, it's definitely, it's okay to be that bad, but like it's just something like to understand that, like, okay, like, yeah, we're not brilliant, but like we're gonna keep working at it, and we're gonna keep trying hard, and we're gonna keep pushing, and that's really what it is. And that's kind of really kind of been our kind of, I guess, learning. Like, it's trial and error, It's like, it's like, that's what 3 songs in 3 years. Like, it's because the fact is we were still figuring out what our proper sound is, and we never wanted to put some songs like under the name Noir and then in the future look back at it and be like, that really wasn't us at all. So the fact is, like, there's going to be so much more content like in the future, and people will be able to look back at Hive, Erase Me and Vanity, and they'll see the little progression that we had when we first started releasing stuff. And we're not going to have just that terrible EP that most bands have to start with. We're going into this EP with, this is going to be everyone's first impression of us. We're treating it as if Vanity, Hive and Erase Me don't really exist. Like, this is when people are going to find out about the band. This is our big push. This is because it's going to be multiple tracks, and all of them have got to be killer. Like, people are going to want to have a favorite track, but not have a least favorite track.
That's a very good way of putting it.
We want people to be excited about coming to the shows to hear that one song that they really like, but hear all the EP. Like, we want it to be very, very just us, and we're not just gonna throw something out there unless we're like 500% positive on it. Like, because there's no real second chance in the metal community with stuff like that.
Unless you rebrand here, which is a whole starting again, which is a nightmare.
I mean, like, It's just like as well, I think with us, like I think with the EP, like we understand that, like, you know, this is going to be first impression and things. We also know, like, okay, this isn't gonna, we're not releasing this and all, like the next thing you know, we're headlining Download. You know, like, you know, if that happens, I wouldn't complain.
Heard it here first.
But like, you know, we know, but what we really want this to do is, again, for us to make our statement and kind of like put our flag in the ground and go like, right, this is our sound, this is what we are, and just get on people's radars, really, and just kind of like, you know, ultimately, like, this is what any band wants, you know, is like people to be talking about you and going, hey, have you checked out this EP? This is new. And like, that's it. But I'm also going to say, as we were talking about the EP a lot, I'm also going to say we do have one more single, which will be coming out soon, before the EP, which is the last one we kind of recorded with Vanity. So we do have one more single, which will be coming out before the EP, because with the EP, most likely, we're going to be getting it ready, and it probably, obviously COVID pushed everything back. So we'll see where that release, but that release will be coming soon. Before then, there is another single that will be released.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we recorded them both at the same time, Vanity and this other single, and we were intending on because when we filmed the video for Vanity, we were like, right, we're going to go film the video for this other song too, and then lockdown happened, and so we've been sat in the awkward middle where we've got the song, we're ready to film a video, and we just keep having to wait until we can kind of put our trains back on the tracks. You know, we've had to take them off for a while, and we had plans. We had big plans, and
like we had everything. Like we got everything. Like we got the plan for the music video, everything, merch, the designs were ready. We were planning the PR kind of sort of stuff, and then as we were rolling, of course, COVID hit, and then boom. So, I mean, we're talking to the videographer. Of course, it all just depends on when we're social distancing and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be like, we're looking for, like, this new single is like, it's kind of like the tail end of kind of like the High Raise Me Vanity era. It's like, it's another unique track. It's a lot different to the other ones.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very much, it's softer and heavier. It's kind of, again, it's another unique take on a track. And with that one, like, we don't, like, again, this isn't like a thing of like, oh, like, we're talking about the EP really hyped and we're just going to throw this one out. Like, we're very confident in this track, and this track is just as important as the EP in terms of, like, you know, like, they listen to the EP or they listen to like Vanity, whatever, and then they come back and there's this, like, oh, okay, there's a different side to the band. There's just like, we're more than just I guess, I don't know, just like, there's more to us, which is it.
There's more of a palette.
Yeah, really.
It's basically like a twin song to Vanity, because it's not like it at all. Like, but if once you've heard both songs, you kind of get us as a band, and like what you can expect in the future. What, like, you can see our range of what we do, because like I feel like I don't need to rap in every song. Like, I think some bands fall too much into their cookie cutter recipes when they think they're a certain genre. Like, if you're listening to a new like deathcore song, you're like, you can tell when it's going to start doing gutturals like 10 seconds before it starts, because you can hear it. And so we wanted to do a song that's super, it hits you really hard, but it's not really hype as it's not really as hype as Vanity. It's like it's a lot slower. It's got a lot more emotion in it, and I don't know, it's a song that we've had people cry to when we played it live.
Cried to it.
People have cried to it. We're hoping people don't really pin their opinion of noir just on this new song either. It's kind of, they need to have heard Vanity, they need to have heard Hive, they need to have heard Erase Me, like, because that's the thing with the band. People who stick, we don't want people to stick around for just one song, because they won't get a full impression, you know. And because if we put everything that we wanted to do in every song, there'll be like 7-minute like operas. Like, we're not quite between the Buried and Me yet. Like, they're like one of my favorite bands ever, but they're way too talented for what we're trying to do right now. Yeah. those guys are incredible. Like, but yeah, we're just really excited to we're kind of closing the chapter of the band where it is kind of pre-lockdown, I guess. And we're going into this EP post-lockdown, and it's going to be the next level up as well. Like everything's going to be fun and games, and there's going to be new noir music, and people are going to hopefully enjoy it. You know?
That's awesome. And we're coming towards the end now, but I've got a couple other things to say, and then we'll start to wrap up and things. But I want to ask as well, because there's a couple of things you said there that are really interesting. And someone I had on the podcast, he's actually a blind gentleman, so pretty inspirational in some ways. And I was talking about podcasting and things, and I said some of my earliest podcasts are a bit rough. And he said, well, the thing is that people want to see you grow. Now, obviously in music, it's, they don't want to see you release something shit and then just have that sort of ruin the name in a sense. But the fact that you guys are open and saying, look, this is the way you've been talking about it, it almost sounds like Hive, Erase Me, Vanity and the new track are almost like the prologue, and then the EP is like chapter 1 in a sense.
Basically, yeah dude, like that's a really good way to put it. Like we've felt that way because it's kind of our uni years, it's our university years where we did those 4 songs. And like Alex is still technically a master's student, but the rest of us, we're kind of in the big wide world now. We've got to get proper jobs. Like, so we're going to try and make this EP so good that we don't have to find full-time jobs for so long, we're trying to live,
I think, yeah, like definitely, like the prologue is the best way to put it, because like I think as you listen through those tracks, you can hear us finding our sound. And like, like with Hive and Erase Me, you can tell it's like we were starting to, like we were writing, like Hive especially, like Hive, you can definitely hear like, okay, we have something new here, it needs tweaking. And then Vanity, you can hear like, okay, it's becoming more aggressive, it's starting to, to this. And the new track is like, okay, there's also a melodic side to these guys, okay. And then when they hear the EP, this is where we want people to be like, okay, these guys are here now, okay, they're established, they're here, they're going for it. And that's kind of really the aim, I think.
And one of the things as well, one of the sort of last points is, it's one of the things that you said, Evie, which I found quite interesting, which is I love a lot of metalcore and a lot of sort of, when post-hardcore was the, big thing, Ask Alexandria, of Mice and Men, those sort of bands and things, slam dunk bands. With them, one of my big issues, and I said, is one of the biggest cruxes I found of a heavy band was having 2 vocalists. Now, not to say, not like if your drummer does backing vocals or if the guitarist does. I mean, having 2 people that only do vocals. Because I find that bands like Issues and, Mice and Men, I think, to a degree, certain bands, when you've got 2 vocalists, although Mice and Men, the singer was a guitarist, that's kind of irrelevant. When it's just 2 vocalists, every song has to have someone shouting and has to have someone singing. And the problem is when you end up doing that, of Mice and Men, that's a very good example because they're like that. Not of Mice and Men, fucking hell. They've got to move on is to grow. No, my brain stopped. We Came as Romans.
Oh, We Came as Romans.
Yes, yeah. Now, obviously one of the singers passed away recently, and the other guy can now do Uncleans and Cleans, so that's partially irrelevant. But you'd listen to some of their songs, and you'd go, okay, well, this is the cool heavy bit, which is normally the verse, and then here comes the chorus melodic. And then you listen to like a whole album of it, and it's 10 songs, and you're like, well, these 2 singles are by far better than everything else, and they all sound the same. But with you being a vocalist who's got such a wide range, not only do you you can do rap, you can also do uncleans and you can do cleans, but also you specifically saying you don't want to have rap in every single song. That alone I was going to follow your band anyway because your tracks are amazing and it's been really great chatting to you, but that alone has really always shone a light in a lot of things, because that's one of the traps I find a lot of heavy bands get into as well. Whereas as you say, like if a vocalist can do gutturals, they will end up trying to do gutturals far too often, and it doesn't fit.
Song.
Exactly.
It's not great. Definitely back in the early days when we were doing gigs with just bands who weren't really our genre, before they'd started playing, we know exactly what they're going to play, and they do it for 45 minutes and it never changes. And it kind of fills us with faith in ourselves, in like a modest way. Like we feel like we have something creative that people can really people could enjoy on people who don't necessarily like metal as a genre, or people who only love metal as a genre. Like they can all find a bit of what they like in our music, and we like being the different guys. Like we haven't really fit at a gig, really.
Yeah.
We haven't had a lineup that suits us perfectly. They've always been a band that's a bit too heavy for our sound, or there's a band who not heavy enough for our sound, because we're definitely in the middle. Like we don't play with like deathcore bands like on purpose. Like it's not our crowd, because a lot of those fans do not like rap and stuff.
Very elitist.
Yeah, like we always want to play shows where people are going to, even if they don't remember us per se after the show, we'll be the band that they probably do remember. Like we try to make an impression every time we play, and that's it's a big point for us.
Yeah.
Like we want to be different, but it's because we're all different people. Like we're all very weird. Like as we said,
Yeah, I think
we embrace it.
I think they're also like, I think it goes back to the thing of like, with the vocalist, like, oh, he can do gutturals, so there has to be gutturals in the song. It's like the same with guitarists. It's like, oh, the guitarist has learned how to sweep pick. Oh, there's definitely going to be sweep picking in the song. And it's like, I think it's one of the things that we kind of learned, like, we went through the phase of it, but kind of learned, like, okay, just because, again, it's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And yeah, with that, it's kind of like, in that the best, like, because let's face it, like most people don't really care if there's like a 2-minute epic solo in the song, or if like the vocalist is doing solo gutturals, it makes your headphones break or whatever. Like I think what again people care about is just good songs, and that's the thing that we kind of learn. Like I think the best kind of like example of that is kind of like System of a Down. Like Darren, like the way sort of Darren approaches the writing of the songs, like he's not shredding, he's not any of that, he's just doing simple chords and simple, well, I say simple, but still very good riffs and very good sort of songs, but like the structure, just like you can tell the song comes first. And I think that's something that we've always tried to like, put first. It's like, well, does the song demand to have this part? No. Okay, it goes then. And it's always the mentality of what is this part actually doing? What is this section actually trying to accomplish? And if the answer is nothing, it doesn't belong there. And then, it's like less is more. And it's also like, you've got to have the quieter bits and the breaks, because that just makes the heavy parts hit harder, It's like, why is there always a build to a breakdown? Because it makes the breakdown hit harder.
We've been through this kind of metamorphosis stage as a band where we've done all the things we don't want to do now. Like we've figured what those things are when we played them at like little shows, or just written songs that have these sections that we didn't know we didn't want them in our actual sound until we did them, like, because sometimes it feels like you've got something going and people really enjoy it, but it really doesn't compare to when you're just doing your thing, and you find it when you're doing it. Like when we're in practice and we did the first ever demo of Vanity in a practice room, we just knew that was like our sound. No other band has come up with a song like this, we don't think. Like we want it to be super unique to everyone who hears it, and we would all hopefully save that song on Spotify if another band did it. That's the mentality I have a bit. It's like, would I save this song if another band did it and I just heard it? You've got to be the thing that you want in music, I think.
Yeah.
Like you find yourself getting into it so much more, and people who want to be fans of your music are more inclined to be into it if you're into it. And like that's why people have stuck behind Jason Butler's whole career, bringing him back. But like people stuck with nearly every Letlive fan probably listens to a bit of Fever 333 now, because it's just the guy. It's his music is just him, and it's going to be 110% of what he's about in whatever he's doing. And people know when they come and see us live, and like we hope in like the newer tracks and stuff, people just are hearing that we're passionate about what we're doing, and we're all like into this music a lot, and we want to bring something new, but like it brings back parts of, I guess, older new metal that you probably like, I don't really know how to explain it.
Almost
like
parts that you didn't realize you missed.
Yeah, it's like it's partly retro in a way, the kind of the way we're doing it. It's modern retro.
Retrospective almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say as well with as we'll start to wrap up as we're coming towards the end, but just quick. One of the things I noticed you said as well is it's been a common theme here is obviously you appreciate your own music and things. And I think that with that specifically, one thing that will really help you guys with after this EP is one thing I find with bands that often struggle with is if they want to change how their sound is a bit. One example I use kind of Bring Me the Horizon. I personally love relatively all Bring Me the Horizon, but every album is very different to the last, and a lot of people love it, a lot of people hate that. Now, with other bands, you find that they release album after album after album. Slayer's probably a good example, where every album sounds exactly the same. I call it Kill Switch Engage syndrome, because I love Kill Switch Engage, but if you listen to like a Kill Switch Engage album, it's a Kill Switch Engage album. Like with the ones with Howard Jones as the singer, I think there's 3 of them, they all basically sound the same. A little bit different, but that's kind of what they want in a sense. But when you like your own music, and as you described it, it's kind of filling a hole that you didn't really know was there until you started writing this music and things. Once you've done that, once the EPs come out and things, you can kind of go, okay, I'm a fan of this music. What would I want this band to release next? Would I want them to, do I feel like that this EP hasn't explored the heavier side enough, or has it explored the rap side too much? Or what do I want as a fan to have in the next EP or the next release? And from that, as well as being, the 5 members who are all involved in music in different ways, I think that'll really help you guys with the evolution of what to do next as well.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I think definitely. I think one of the best examples of that is Linkin Park, and I think me and Evie will definitely both agree. Our favorite Linkin Park album is A Thousand Suns, which is the concept album. Like I was listening back to that one the other day, and like that's a lot more electronic and everything. And I think because like with Linkin Park, obviously, like they came out with Hybrid Theory and Meteor. Sorry,
Meteor.
Yeah, and
they're generally the 2 popular ones.
And like, that was like the big sort of like new metal energy thing, kind of like a lot more kind of like taking the new metal sound, making it a bit more mainstream. And then they did Minutes to Midnight, which is a bit, because obviously they realized, okay, new metal is kind of gone now. We need to kind of start reinventing ourselves, and also they came up with What I've Done, which is like a good mid-noughties kind of rock hit. And then they came out with A Thousand Suns, which was, to be honest, they clearly got to the point like, okay, we can do arenas, we can kind of do what we want. We want to really experiment with electronic stuff now. And I think, because obviously, like with fans, it will obviously that's, you run the risk of doing that. You risk of losing fans. You also risk gaining fans, because a lot of people like Slayer. If you want to go to Slayer, you know exactly what you want. You want thrash metal. You want really aggressive thrash metal. What Slayer is, and fair enough. And if Slayer goes like, well, we want to keep making this music, all power to them. No one's going to say you can't do it. Go ahead, and let people go listen to it. And I think with us as well, like even the EP, like we understand that like we will bring in elements of other genres, because that's just what we like in music. We like bringing in other elements, and I think it'll come to the point where like we might write a few songs where we definitely experiment with different sound samples and everything. I think we're already planning that for this EP. So yeah, and I think again, and I just think I like it when a band kind of writes something a bit different and kind of but the band will definitely always be drums, guitars, bass, vocals. It'll still be us 5 members. It'll still be us writing it, and whether it's different and new elements added in, probably 100%. I definitely,
like I think if you have a list of all of our listening histories, even like for like the last 24 hours between the 5 of us, it would just be the weirdest list of songs, because like I don't listen to much metal really anymore. Like I've taken a bit of a break from it, because I think it's a bit saturated now. Like even bands I used to really like Bury Tomorrow and stuff, I was going to listen to their new album, but then I heard a little bit and it sounded like every single Bury Tomorrow album. So like I have big respect for them, they keep it on going, but I just kind of, I'm over it for the moment, but I'll come back to it. I don't think lockdown has put me in like a metal listening mood. I listen to a lot of like calmer music and composers and whatnot. I have a weird music taste. Like it goes around. But at the moment, I'm trying to think more about what do I like in music, and like why do I like it, and that's a big it's a kind of a big stepping stone for the EP. That I just you want it to be something that you've never heard before, and that people will understand that they've never heard it before. And I have a problem with when people can just make a really quick similarity between this new thing and some old thing. Like, being unique is the best way to be, I think. Like, and not it's not even caring about haters per se, because we know that there's going to be a chunk of people who don't appreciate our music, and that's cool. Like, we've always been cool about that. Like, even when we're playing shows and there are people there who maybe don't want to stick around and listen to us because we're not their thing, we don't take offense to that. Like, our genre is a very tricky genre for people who don't like it. You know, if you have a soft spot for any kind of nu metal, we'll be all right. But there are a lot of people who just don't want anything to do with our kind of music, and that's cool. So we progress off knowing that we're doing something unique, and people do seem to enjoy it, and that's always a positive, you know. Like, we have a lot of faith going into our music, because we're passionate about it, and we work hard, and it's just a thing.
You can hear that in this whole conversation. I think what people will have hopefully taken from this entire thing is that you guys are passionate about it, you're musically articulate, and also you've got a plan without being too rigid of, you know, you didn't set off, 3 years ago, okay, we want to write, a rap metal album, and then that you were like, right, let's never change that ever, we're just going to stick with that. You didn't do that. You're allowing yourselves to be fluid enough to evolve, and that's one of the most important things. And so I'd just say it's been great talking with you guys. Is there anything you guys sort of want to add before we wrap up?
I can't think of anything now. I think we've definitely seemed to have covered a lot of ground.
New single probably in like the next month or two, we're hoping, fingers crossed. Lockdown depending, there'll be at least one song coming out at some point.
I guess we'll just do a shout out to the socials. So
yeah, I'll be sure to share and all that sort of jazz. I'll make sure I share all that sort of stuff.
Was it Evie? Is it like at the band Noir UK, Facebook and Instagram?
That's Facebook. Yeah, no, on Instagram it's just at the band Noir. You can just search NO:IR on YouTube and you'll find some of us.
It is pronounced Noir with the colon.
If anyone has a name for our fan base yet that we talked about in an interview the other day, like people are still trying to come up with a name for noir fans. So
Noirlets, like a harlot, Noirlet. I don't know.
That's a new one. That's going on the fridge. That's a good one. I love it.
Got a list definitely of like recommended like names. We will eventually choose one. Now,
awesome.
But yeah.
That's awesome, dudes. I'll pop all the links and things in the description. People can find that. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good one.
And that's the end of the episode. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. Make sure you go check out Noir on YouTube to check out the video for Vanity, as well as the video for Hive, and make sure you follow them on social media so you can keep up to date with the other stuff they've got coming out. So coming up in the following weeks, I've got a chat next week with someone who has not been on the podcast before, but she has her own podcast, so I'm quite excited about that one. Hoping that'll be a nice long chat for us. The next week being released will probably be that chat that I'm actually speaking about, but don't want to name them just in case anything happens and things. I've already got the chat recorded with Paul and Emily of the Parent Guide to GCSE podcast, but I'm going to release that a little bit closer to the time of people going back to school and things like that. And I've also got a chat due with a friend of mine called Sean, who that's going to be in 2 weeks' time, I think. And I'm also due to go on the mandatory Marvel and DC podcast, which anyone follows my other podcast, Star Wars Comics in Canon, that airs on the Comics in Motion feed, and Comics in Motion is the home of Star Wars Comics in Canon, the Comics in Motion podcast, as well as Tony Farina's Indie Comic Spotlight and Max Burns' Mandatory Marvel and DC. So keep an eye out for that, but I've also been on Indie Comic Spotlight. I went on that a little while ago to speak about the comics Second Coming. So I've included a link to a lot of these things in the description. So if you want more content and you're not interested in being on the Genuine Chit-Chat channel and you're also not interested in it being Star Wars related, then go in the description. And I've been on Ask Win, I've been Friends in Your Ears, I've done 2 sets of voice acting work for season 2 of the podcast Room. I've done lots of crazy things. So make sure you go check those things out. You know, follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and leave a review if you can help it on iTunes/Apple Podcasts, as well as anywhere else that you get your podcasts, because it really helps the show out, as does sharing the show among your friends, family, and anyone else on social media. I do really appreciate that. So that's about it from me, guys. Really hope you appreciate this sort of longer chat and things that I didn't split in 2. Thought it just worked a bit better as one whole chat. And yeah, really appreciate you guys listening, and I'll talk to you next week.